Hey y'all, welcome back. As you can see by the title, today's video is all about my son's adoption. So if you're new here, my name is Nichole, and I originally got on YouTube and I was sharing, my love and passion for natural hair care. And over time, my channel kind of evolved to where I share all things about my foster care journey and just life as a mom. Before we took our break, I was a foster parent. I had two little girls that I was fostering, and 2 years went by so fast and so much had changed. And when I came back, I had announced that I was back, and I was back as a mom. But one thing I never did was share my son's adoption journey. I never really got to document that because life just happened so fast. And of course, when they're in foster care, you can't show them and you can't share different things. So I was just living life and enjoying, and I was like, I need to share this story because there's so many people kind of ask me about the process and what I went through and just how that actually works, because a lot of people don't know or they're confused. So I decided it is time to share his story. So he's been adopted for almost a year in November. So he was adopted officially November 2022. But he has been in my home since he was 6 weeks old. So let's just rewind. So I originally got into fostering just because, I'm single and I wasn't a parent yet, and I knew I wanted to be a parent, but it just wasn't that time for me. And so I decided, I'm gonna pour my love into a child who needs a home, and I'm gonna send them back home when it's time, and just keep that process going, because I knew I was at a phase where I was like in this in-between, and so I didn't want to do anything permanent with my life. However, when I started the training for fostering, I learned that there was 3 types of license. So you can do just fostering, where you only foster children. You could do foster to adopt, which is a little kind of taboo, but we'll get back to it. Or you can do straight adoption. So I was originally going in to just do fostering, and when we were doing the training, the lady was saying, this is the difference between the license, and this is why sometimes people would get this license. She said, imagine that you get this child and then they're in your home for 2, 3, 4 years maybe, and all of a sudden they need to be adopted. She says, if you're only foster, then you cannot adopt. You have to go back and get licensed in order to adopt that child. The child that has been with you for the past however many years, that has grown accustomed to you and your family. And you would have to give them over to somebody who was prepared to adopt, or then you'd have to try to go through the process. And I was like, I can't imagine having a kid in my home that long and not being able to keep them because I didn't have the license. And not to say that you couldn't, but then there's more steps and red tape you have to go through. And I was like, that'd be so sad. And I'm like, I'm gonna do foster to adopt, not to adopt, but that specific license for the off chance that a kid comes into my home. I knew I couldn't tear away if I had raised them that long. You know what I'm saying? So June of 2021, I got a phone call while I was on the road. We were coming home from Dallas from a funeral, and it was just my mom and my foster daughter and a church friend. And I got a phone call, and they said, hey, Miss Logan, we know what you said. We know you don't want infants, but we have this baby boy, 6 weeks old, 4 pounds, and he's an emergency placement. He needs a home. And I was like, because first of all, I told them I didn't want infants. I didn't want boys. And I was on the road and we were in transition. I had bought my home. We had moved everything finally into the home. It was completely set up. And when we were returning from the funeral, we were going to move in and stay the next day. And I was like, I don't have anything set up for a child. And we're still like in the midst of unpacking. Like the house was set up, but we still had to like unpack things. And I was like, oh God, oh God. And so I prayed about it. I talked to my mom, and she was like, an infant's a lot, Nichole, and he's 6 weeks. And she was like, okay, we'll do it. Anytime my mom is like, okay, we'll do it, I'm game. And so I made it into town, and 2 hours later, here is this baby boy, teeny tiny, in this carrier, and I just look at him, and I looked at the worker, and I was like, what am I supposed to do? He was so tiny, and I was so scared to hold him. Thankfully, we stayed the night at my mom's that night, and they brought him a playpen and some diapers and formula. And so yeah, I got my son when he was 6 weeks old, and we went to the doctor's appointments. He had a lot of doctor's appointments because he was so tiny, and he was 2 months early. He was a preemie, and he had a lot of medical conditions that they wanted to monitor. So we had a lot of doctor's visits, especially for his weight as well, because they needed him to gain weight and gain it quickly, because when he left the NICU, he had lost a couple of pounds, and so they were kind of worried about him. But even though I was so scared, like I was so in love, my foster daughter was so in love, she just adored him. So, you know, we were going through the process, and his plan was reunification. If you're unfamiliar with fostering, a child comes with a plan, and it's based on, you know, maybe how many times they've been in care. It's different factors, but most of the time the plan is reunification. So he was doing visits with his mom. I actually did meet her. I would have conversations, we would do exchanges at his visits. You know, I would kind of update her on what's going on with doctor's visits. So we had a very good relationship as far as, you know, being open and being able to talk about things. I would bring her pictures and just different things, like from different events that might have happened. And it was kind of on and off. And of course you have family planning and meetings and court dates to check in and to see how the parents are doing and how the case is progressing. And after a couple of months, the case was kind of stagnant, and then back around Christmas time, we picked back up with visits. And you know, she got to see him in his Christmas outfits and spend his first Christmas with him, you know, as much as possible. After Christmas, we ended up having a court date, and I hadn't seen mom in a while. I was kind of worried about her. I would ask the worker about her, you know, just to see how she was doing and to let her know how he was doing. And I sent a bunch of videos and pictures. And at the last court date, she decided that the best thing would be to terminate rights. And all she asked was that I keep the adoption open, which I did. So that we transitioned to a new worker, which is adoption worker. And the thing with adoption is when you get a child in your home and it's specifically for adoption, you have to keep them for 6 months in order to be able to adopt them, just to make sure it's a good fit. But because he had been with me for over a year, that wasn't the case, but we did have to wait for a time when the judge does the mass adoptions. And so ours was in November on adoption day, and it was so amazing. It was a construction worker theme. The judge had her costume and she dressed up with her hard hat, and it was amazing. Family and friends came, and what was so great about it is it wasn't in a courtroom, it was at a church. And they set it up so cute for the kids and so nice, and the kids all had their little construction vests, and they had a place to do pictures, and there was food. And they also did it virtually for the people that could not make it. And I think I probably had the biggest group, because my church family came, my actual family came, his uncles and his godparents came. It was awesome. And so yeah, I can't stop smiling because I'm still thinking about it to this day, and it was just so amazing. But yeah, we had his adoption day, and we did officially change his name. So he kept part of his name because he had a very long name, but I also gave him a name kind of like Jacob in the Bible. I gave him a name change because he was starting a new journey in his life. So he is officially a Logan. And if you're curious about like all the ins and outs of post-adoption, and like, because there's things you have to do legally as far as paperwork goes, and or even the adoption process of getting the lawyer, I can make a separate video on that. But yeah, I just wanted to share his story. So that is his adoption story. I have literally had him since he was 6 weeks old, so I pretty much have had him from the beginning. So I've spent every holiday, every birthday, everything you can imagine with him except for his birth. And honestly, I don't even feel like I missed anything. It's just been so wonderful. I have just enjoyed being his mom. And for those who don't know, he is currently 2. He is the big 2. Yeah, that is our adoption story. And I know you've seen him all on my channel so far, but we never just officially explained it. So I'm sure people who are new probably don't know his story or just don't know that I adopted him. But he is my son. I don't just have this random kid in videos who looks nothing like me. And we're coming up on a whole year almost in November, which is crazy to me that it's been a year already, but it has been a blast, y'all. If you have ever considered it or thought about fostering or adopting, it is such a beautiful, crazy journey. And I would encourage you, even if it's just for a short time, if you have the space and the heart to give to a child, just open up your heart and your home and do it. And you know, it doesn't always end up like us. You know, most of the time the kids go back. I was just right time, right place. God spoke and told me to do it, and I did, and here we are. And there's so many kids out there that need to be adopted. So you don't have to foster a kid and adopt. So many kids who are waiting for homes that need to be adopted. So yeah, guys, that's our story. If you have any questions about the fostering process or the adoption process, or just questions in general that you're just curious about fostering, let me know down in the comments below, and I would be happy to share them with you. And so to wrap this video up, I think I want to bring Mr. Cole on camera to say hello and goodbye. I couldn't do this video with him because we would have never gotten it done. So I'm gonna get him and let him come and say hello. Look, he say hi. Oh, can you tell the people bye-bye? Bye. Little kiss. Mwah. Little kiss. Little kiss. I'm seeing more of him on my channel because he is a character. He might need a channel of his own because he has such a huge personality. But it's been fun, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.